Okay, so all of our podcasts are, well, most of them I try my best to share on YouTube. So that's what I'm talking about when I say video, is you can go to Brutal Iron Gym on YouTube and see a video of me talking, basically. But it just gives a video option to the podcast. So the next one we're going to talk about here is strength progressions. So if I want to test if somebody's getting stronger, I want to have a test for push, pull, and legs. So something that tests like a chest press or an overhead press, something that tests a pull, which can be a pull up or pull down or a row, and something that tests their legs. And typically you're going to do like a knee bend or a hinge. So that would be a variation of a squat or a deadlift, essentially. So the testing that you want to test for, the strength that you want to test for is going to be specific to whatever they want to make progress in. So if somebody's coming to you and they want to get better in their squat, should you measure the bench press? You can if you want to, but it's not helpful to the squat. So you want to be specific to what you're measuring based on what the results they want from you. So if they came to you to get stronger overall, doing push-pull leg tells you kind of all the muscles of the body. So that's why we think of those. And then if you're doing testing protocol, for example, for strength, form is always, always, always the most important thing. So you never want to reward bad form. So if they break form to get an extra rep of something, or if they break form to get an extra 5 pounds, that does not count. So good form trumps everything. That is most important. So sometimes they might be able to do, say, a lift of 100 pounds for 3 reps. And this time they tried it again in retesting, and they could only get 3, but their form was better. So maybe if it was a bench press, for example, they didn't wiggle their feet around, their butt didn't come up, they didn't bounce the bar off their chest. It was a better quality 3 reps, then that's still an improvement. So you can track improvements in strength by weight used, reps performed, and quality of the movement. So typically the reps that we would use, if you're doing powerlifting, where the sport is a 1 rep max, you can test 1 rep maxes. If you're not in powerlifting, then I would suggest testing strength with sets of 3 to 5 reps. So if they can do 100 pounds for 5 reps, next time you would move up. So 105 or 110 pounds, and see if they can at least get 3. If they can only do 2 reps of something, I would test that weight again the following month or 2 and see if they can get 3 reps rather than going heavier. The reason why 3 to 5 reps is better is it's safer. So if something kind of goes wrong with reps 1 and 2 in terms of form, they can just bail out on the lift. If you do a 1 rep max and something goes wrong with the form, it's likely an injury. Okay? And then the other thing is you always want to test them at the same conditions. So if last time you tested them on a Monday after just a really light warm-up, you don't want to then the next time test them on a Thursday at the end of a workout. So you want to make sure the conditions are as similar as possible every time you test. Now, what about testing for things other than strength? So if I want to test for muscle growth, for example, that would be exercise specific. So if they want to get their biceps bigger, I would want to test a bicep exercise. I know that sounds common sense, but holy crap have I seen people not do that, which is surprising every time. But the muscle that they want to get bigger should be involved in the exercise you're actually doing, okay? And it doesn't have to be an isolation movement. So if they want bigger quads, do I always have to test with leg extensions? No. It could be something that still involves their quads, like a squat, leg press, lunges, stuff like that. So as long as the muscle you're testing is involved, that's okay. So does it make it maybe a little more vague of whether it's, actually the quadriceps that got better or the hamstrings or the glutes? Yeah, but we already have vagueness all over the place. So we talked about with Barney measurements that they have some variability to them. Weight scale has variability to them. So everything has some variability, okay? But you want to test in specific to the growth range. So like I said, if somebody wants to get bigger biceps, I don't need to test a 3 to 5 rep max on bicep curl because that's more related to strength. If I want growth, I have to test them in the growth range, which is somewhere between 20 to 40 seconds of time under tension. So say last time they did bicep curls, they could do, say, 35 pounds for 20 seconds before their form broke down. This time we try 35 pounds, maybe they can do it for 25 seconds. So maybe they get an extra 1 or 2 reps. Perfect. Okay, that's what you want. You just want to see progression within that range. So the reps that you would perform in 20 to 40 seconds is different per exercise. Some exercises have a larger range of motion, therefore they take longer to complete. So if you think of a body, like a squat versus a bicep curl, it might take me 3 seconds to do a squat correctly, whereas a bicep curl might only take, say, 2 seconds. So how many reps I can fit into 20 to 40 seconds is different per exercise. So you would want to test them and say, okay, for this exercise, 12 reps puts them at 30 seconds. I'm going to use that as my marker. So if next time they can get 13 reps, then we know we're doing well. So that's the idea. So what about endurance? Again, it's event specific. So if they want to get better endurance in their legs, make sure you do a leg thing. I know, again, that sounds common sense, but I've seen people mess this up. And then again, you want to test within that parameters. So if they want to get better leg endurance, you don't test a 3 to 5 rep max on squats. Okay, you might test like how far they can push and pull a sled at a certain weight, or maybe sets of like 10 reps on a squat. So where that's going to take them some time, that might take 40, 50, 60 seconds. So that's going to be more indicative of a change of endurance. So that way you're actually testing the exact protocol that you want the effect in. So we're going to move on a little bit. I could talk more about this stuff, but we're already at 35 minutes. This is taking forever, but hopefully it's helpful. So photos. I'm not a big fan of taking photos for most people because for photos to be effective, so much of the photo has to be consistent. Okay, the clothes that they wear will change the visual effect of the clothes. Of the body. So if they wear dark clothes versus light clothes, dark clothes will highlight shadows more. It can actually make somebody look leaner than light clothing does. Also, if they wear, like say if it's a female, if they wear like some boy shorts, kind of like underwear in one photo, but a thong in the next photo, that'll change what the glutes look like. So also just like loose clothing versus baggy clothing. So all of that stuff is different. It will change the visual effect of the body. So if they're doing photos, they have to wear the exact same clothes every time. Okay. Lighting, regards to where they are in the room compared to the overhead lighting, or even the time of the day if they're using daylight as part of the lighting of the room that they're in. So if the window is open and they take the photo at 6 a.m. versus 7:30 a.m., that is a little bit different in terms of how much sunlight is exposing on their body in that position. So whether they're facing the window, whether they're facing away from the window, whether they're quarter turned to the window or whatever, all that stuff changes. So the placement they are in the room makes a difference. The time of the day in terms of their leanness. So if they can't get someone to help them take a photo because they can't take selfies, maybe they have trouble taking the photo, so they get their husband to help them in the evening at 5 p.m. But the next time it's a Saturday, the husband helps them and it's 10 a.m. That looks different, that'll be different. So all of those things factor into whether photos look like they make progress or not when you're really trying to get to the nitty-gritty details, okay? So since all of that stuff is really hard to control, I'm not a big fan of taking photos as like a great way to really measure aesthetic change. So it's up to you. You might have a difference of opinion, but the more you look at photos, the more you recognize there is variability of elements outside of the aesthetics of the body. So the more you look at photos, the more you realize there is detail. Like there's so many things that factor into the detail. So somebody can appear leaner, but simply they just took it in different lighting with tighter clothes on. Boom, difference. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. So that is all I'm going to really say about photos because I just think they're almost a waste of time. Now, are they beneficial for large-scale change? Yes. If you get a before photo and then work with somebody for 6 months, then yes, the photo at 6 months is helpful. But if they're taking photos every 2 weeks or every month, that's not very helpful. So it's too small of a rate of change of actual physical effect compared to the effects that those changes of position, lighting, clothes can have. So it's almost like the change of clothes would be equal to the change that they had had in that month of dieting. So how do you know if it's the clothes or the dieting? Okay. Whereas when you do 6 months, it's pretty obvious that there's been actual physical changes. Okay, so now out of all of the stuff in regards to tracking results, which is all we've talked about so far, weight scale, body measurements, strength progressions or performance progressions, and photos, what do you use? I would argue that you should use strength for every single person, without a doubt, regardless of what their goal is. The reason why is if they're getting stronger, they're getting healthier. So strength is extremely, extremely, extremely important in terms of overall health. And if they get stronger, that means that they're most likely getting a muscular change, and that's going to result in a shape change as well. So, so strength is extremely, extremely, extremely important for all goals, even endurance. The more strength somebody has, the more endurance they can eventually have. So it's kind of like they have a higher work capacity to then create the work from. So in podcast 175, a trainer education podcast, we talk about the importance of strength. So you can go check that out if you want to learn more about why I think strength is so important. The rest of the measurements are really as needed. So like we said, with an aesthetic athlete who wants to get bigger muscles, I might use the weight scale, I might use measuring as a body measurement, like actual tape measuring, and then I'll use progression in terms of performance related to the growth range of time and attention and the muscle that they would want to get bigger. So that would be a choice for them. Say I have somebody who's a general overall health client, they just want to be less fat, okay? So we would use the weight scale. I really would not want to use skin fold, biological impedance, or measuring. I don't think they're that accurate, so I'd have them do a DEXA scan. And then I would still have strength progressions for like the main lifts, push, pull, legs. And then you could do photos of a before and after having 6 months in between. So you would pick and choose between all of these based on what you feel best applies to what the results that client wants. So that's kind of how you put this together. I would say strength for everybody. Everything else is kind of individual depending on what is going to best reflect the progress and change that you want them to make. Okay? Cool. Now, the last thing I'll finish up with real quick is tracking adherence. And like I said, the reason why I think tracking adherence is excellent is it gives them a per day focus, and even throughout the day. They can have a feeling of whether they're doing right or wrong, rather than kind of feeling like they're busting their ass, but they don't know if they're doing well or not, and then only to the month later find out whether things worked or not. So it doesn't really work that well. People don't like that style of tracking. So they want kind of immediate feedback, and tracking adherence gives you immediate feedback. We have our like smiley face charts I talk about all the time. So if you want one of those, just email us and it's free. I'll just send it to you. But basically it has the number of meals per day that the client would have. So if they're supposed to have 5 a day, you would make 5 spaces. If they're supposed to have 6, you'd have 6 spaces. So you would personalize the chart to your client's needs. They would then, if they had a good meal, they would have a smiley face. If they had a bad meal, they'd have a frowny face. If they missed the meal, it's blank. Okay? Now, if you don't want to do smiley faces and frowny faces, that's okay. You can just have them do a check for good meals, an X for bad meals, and blank for missed meals. Then what you see is throughout the rest of the week, you'd have them check it at the end of the week and say, hey, how many mistakes did we make? Maybe that week we had 7 mistakes. Next week, let's try to go to 6 mistakes. You're just trying to have them improve their adherence to the program. So you check in with them every single week. It gives them accountability, and it also protects yourself as a trainer. Is very quickly when things don't go well, the person says, I don't think this diet's working for me, or I don't think this program works, this training program. But if you check their adherence chart and they're making like 13 nutrition mistakes a week, they're not even following the damn diet. So it's not that the diet you wrote for them doesn't work. The diet they're actually doing isn't working. Okay? So that's very significant to have that. And what it does, it helps the client see that it's their adherence to the program that's a problem, not your program. So it's very protective for you as a trainer, and it lets you see what you need to address. Do you need to change the program? No, they're not even following the damn thing. So you wouldn't want to waste your time on that. You want to help them address why they're not following it. If it's a scheduling issues, if it's like, emotional issues, mental issues, anything. You just want to find out what's affecting the adherence. We don't need to change the program. We need to change how well we adhere to the program. Okay? And like we said, it's also more important than tracking results in the sense that it promotes a lifestyle focus. And if they adhere to the program well, the results will come. So it's kind of like if you pay attention to the step-by-step, you will get to the finish line. Okay? So that's what you want to look at. Hopefully this was helpful and gave you some good information on kind of the truths of certain ways of measuring progress. So you can track, like we said, results, or you can track adherence. You absolutely 100% should have adherence tracking, and you should track strength. Everything else is based on the individual client needs. Okay? Don't track something that doesn't apply to their progress directly, because they'll probably fail or falter at that thing. You'll cause unnecessary stress in their life. So don't add more tracking things than what you need. Track the minimal amount. So that way it gives them hyper focus rather than a broad spread out focus. Okay? Cool. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions for us, email us at brutalironGym@gmail.com. Any questions related to tracking progress. And then if you're a trainer, if there's any topics you would like us to discuss or dive more in detail with, always reach out to us. So the podcast is intended to be for you. So we want to know what you want to learn about. Anything, whatever it is. Anything that's holding you back from being the best trainer you can be, let us know and we'll find you the information for it. Okay? Cool. If you like this podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like the information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we know what you want to learn about. And you can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.